What's up guys, Sibo here, and today we are going to be making magical mushroom kingdoms inside of plant pots. Let's jump straight into the video. Naturally, when I say plant pots, I actually mean a Harry Potter mug. But it is 2023, so those are effectively the same thing, so just roll with it. As with any polymer clay project ever, we are going to start off by conditioning the clay. I tend to like to condition all the colours that I'm going to use beforehand. It just makes things a whole ton more organised. This is ultra boring though, which is folding in on itself over and over and over again, so let's skip to the good part. Okay, so clay is conditioned. Next step, kingdomify it, I guess. Obviously, my plant pot slash mug is currently occupied, so I should probably do something about that. Now that the mug is empty, I need to fill up the bottom. I'm then going to mix up a bunch of earthy tones, roll it up into a thin layer, and then project it over the top of the tin foil. Hopefully this will give a mixed terrain sort of feel, and the rough jaggedy edges of the tinfoil will make mountains and valleys. Now, over the course of about an hour, I'm going to plop down individual specks of green. This was really painful to do, but a mushroom kingdom does need its trees. I'm actively surprised at how good it's looking. Usually around about now when I'm working on a project, it looks a lot worse than this, not gonna lie. Whilst I was planting the trees, I noticed that there were quite a few holes that I needed to plug in. So I'm just putting some fairly dark clay down in these holes, just because seeing random holes of tinfoil would kind of ruin it. And we are finished! At least in terms of the mountains and the trees anyway. But I think we could probably improve it a fair bit by adding some rivers in there. So let's bust out the UV resin. Controversially, I am going to mix the UV resin and the pigment on the sculpture itself. Let's do this. In hindsight, I really should not have done the rivers yet. I should have waited and done all of the UV resin stuff after baking the polymer clay. Firstly, this is the first time I've ever done this, so I don't know how the UV resin will react with the polymer clay. But more importantly, I shouldn't really be baking UV resin in an oven. Oh, whoopsies! But anyway, it is what it is. As a base, I am going with a dark navy blue, then putting a shallow layer of light turquoise, and then finishing off with a small little bit of white, symbolising the crashing of waves. Granted, I do mess up a little bit, but I get it all working fine in the end. Now that I'm done with that, it's time for me to add some mushrooms to this kingdom. Let's do this! For the mushroom stems, I am going for 3 main colours. I like to try to avoid plain white, so I've gone for more yellowy tones. I run them into snakes and then cut them into tiny little bits, and then just use my hands to try and round off the edges. For the mushroom caps, I'm going to do something very similar. I'm going to cut them into small little pieces, but this time I'm going to turn them into spheres and then chop them in half to make half spheres. I'm also going to flatten some into sort of a disc shape, and I'm going to do this with multiple different colours. I don't want all of the mushrooms in the kingdom to all be exactly the same. That's a little bit boring. Mushrooms are kind of famous for having these small little dots on them, but I've already got really small mushroom caps. So in order to get the smallest amount of clay that I can, I'm using tweezers and a tiny little needle tool, and just trying my best to be careful. I then use liquid clay to attach the caps to the stems, and there we have it. Loads of tiny little mushrooms. They're not the most detailed thing in the world, but these are small. The camera doesn't really give it justice. I'm then using some more liquid clay to try to attach the entire mushroom onto the island. Mushroom stems tend not to be perfectly smooth. They tend to have this sort of wrinkled texture, so I'm just trying to get at them with a ball tool to make them look slightly more realistic. Okay, so as it turns out, my kingdom is having a housing crisis and all of my mushrooms actually need somewhere to live. Let's make some houses. If you can learn one thing from this video, it is making tiny little houses is really not easy. I tried rolling out some copper effect Fimo clay and then cutting them into small little rectangles and building them on top of each other to try and create sort of a log cabin feel. But when you're working this small, it is so fiddly, and even adding things like doors and windows, nothing looks how you want it to look. After I found a place for the cottages and attached them using liquid clay, I just need to add a little bit more grass around the cottages and the mushroom to make it look like it blends in a little bit better. Now it's finally time to chuck all of it into the oven and see the finished results. I really hope this mug can go in the oven. And while we were waiting, remember to subscribe. And that is it, guys. I'm super duper uber happy with this project. It's hard to kind of give it justice on camera because I don't have a micro lens that is capable of zooming in enough and focusing. But yeah, I'm happy with how it turned out. Thank you so much for watching, guys. I really appreciate it. If you did enjoy this video, then why not hit that subscribe button. But for now, I will see you guys all in the next video. Peace.